Welcome to another episode of Dr. Nicholas Jenner podcast. Today we're going to be talking about how codependency isn't love, but control. So if you want a clean way to understand codependency, stop talking about love and start talking about safety. Most codependent behaviour isn't driven by affection, it's driven by threat sensitivity. The person is trying to stabilise connection so their body can settle. That might look like caring on the surface, but the function underneath is often control. Controlling closeness, controlling tone, controlling outcomes, controlling how the other person feels and thinks, so the codependent doesn't have to sit with uncertainty. That's why codependency can be intense, exhausting, and confusing for both people. The codependent often believes they are being loving. The partner often experiences being managed. So when I say control, I don't mean stereotypical controlling behaviour. I don't mean barking orders or checking someone's phone. I mean relational control. Attempts to shape the emotional environment so it stays predictable. Statements like, "Are we okay? What are you thinking? Why are you quiet? Please talk to me. Tell me you're not angry. Please don't do that. If you love me, you wouldn't need space." It can also look softer, over-helping, overgiving, taking over, smoothing conflict before it exists, doing the emotional work for two, making yourself indispensable. None of it has to be intentional, but intention doesn't change impact. A useful question is, what happens in a codependent when they can't control the relationship? When they can't get certainty, reassurance, contact, agreement, warmth, or repair on demand. Often you'll see a rapid shift into anxiety, rumination, urgency, explaining, appeasing, or a kind of moral pressure. After all I do for you. That tells you what you're dealing with, not a preference, a nervous system response. So how does the nervous system learn to do this? It usually begins in childhood environments where connection felt conditional, unpredictable, or emotionally costly. Not necessarily dramatic, not always abusive. Sometimes it's simply that the adults were inconsistent, preoccupied, fragile, volatile, critical, or unable to repair properly after tension. Children in those environments learn quickly that closeness isn't something you relax into, it's something you maintain. You stay tuned in, you watch mood, you monitor tone, you become skilled at reading microsignals. You learn when to be small, when to be useful, when to be agreeable, when to be invisible. Over time, the child's nervous system makes a basic association. Uncertainty equals danger. Disapproval equals danger. Silence equals danger. Conflict equals danger, and distance equals danger. That's not a conscious belief, it's a body expectation. The system is trained to detect potential rupture early and to prevent it, which means the child learns strategies. Some children become caretakers, some become high achievers, some become charming, some become compliant, some become the peacemaker, some become the one who understands. The details vary, the mechanism is the same. Manage the other person's state so you can stay safe. When that person grows up, they don't simply choose codependent relationships. Their nervous system is drawn to familiar dynamics because familiarity reads as safety, even when it's painful. And once attached, the old system comes online. It treats ordinary adult relationships realities as threat. A partner needing space, being tired, having a different view, not replying quickly, being preoccupied, wanting independence, not wanting to talk right now, being mildly irritated. The codependent experiences these not as neutral events, but as signs of danger. So they do what their system has learnt to do. They attempt to restore safety by restoring closeness and certainty. And this is where the control comes in. The codependent often controls through care. That's why it can be hard to see. It's not, you can't go out. It's, oh, you've had a hard week, I'll do everything. It's not, you must prioritise me. It's, oh, I don't ask for much. It's not, you're not allowed to have feelings. It's, I'm just trying to understand. But again, look at the function. The function is often keep the other person regulated, engaged and predictable, so I don't have to feel the internal alarm. This is also why codependency can become coercive without the person recognizing it. The coercion is emotional rather than explicit. If you don't respond to the way the codependent needs, you may be met with anxiety, pressure, over-analysis, guilt, sulking, withdrawal, or repeated push for immediate resolution. It creates a relationship where the partner feels they must manage the codependent state, otherwise the atmosphere becomes unbearable. Now, it's important to say this plainly. Codependents often feel misunderstood here. They'll say, I'm not controlling, I'm just trying to be close, or I'm not asking for reassurance, or I just want communication. And sometimes they are. Sometimes the partner is genuinely avoidant or evasive, and the relationship is dysfunctional on both sides. But codependency has a particular quality, the urgency, the inability to tolerate not knowing, the pressure for immediate emotional alignment, the difficulty knowing the other person needs to be separate without it being interpreted as rejection, and a tendency to turn their own anxiety into a relationship requirement. That's not intimacy, it's regulation by proxy. If you live with a codependent, this can feel like you're never fully off duty. Even on good days, there can be a sense of being watched. Not a sinister way, not in a tracked way. Your mood is noticed immediately. Your tone becomes a signal. Your silence becomes an incident. Your need for space becomes a problem. And over time, many partners start to self-edit. They become careful. They avoid honest reactions because honesty creates fallout. They learn that it's easier to reassure than to tell the truth. That's one of the most damaging parts. Codependency can train the partner to lie by omission, not because they're dishonest, because the cost of honesty is too high. It can also create a constant feeling of debt. When someone does a great deal for you, it can be hard to refuse them. It can be hard to say, no, I don't want that, or please stop, because you might sound ungrateful. Many codependents give in a way that makes refusals feel like cruelty. They may not intend that, but it's a real dynamic. Overgiving becomes leverage. And then there's resentment. Codependents often carry resentment because they are constantly managing and anticipating and accommodating. They often don't ask cleanly for what they want. They hint, they hope, they do more, they wait to be noticed. When it doesn't come, they feel unappreciated. The partner, meanwhile, feels confused. I didn't ask you to do all of this. That's a common codependent loop. Unsolicited overgiving followed by anger that it wasn't repaid. So when we say codependency isn't love, it's control, we're not saying codependents don't feel love. They often feel love intensely. We're saying that the behaviours that dominate a relationship are often not expressions of love, but attempts to manage threat. And the partner experiences those attempts as being managed. Now we get to the implication. If this is nervous system driven, what actually changes it? The answer is not positive thinking, and it's not telling yourself you're secure. The answer is building tolerance for the experiences your system currently treats as danger. Distance, disagreement, disappointment, uncertainty, not being chosen in the moment, not being reassured immediately, letting someone else have a mood without it becoming your emergency. And this is where many codependents struggle, because they are used to acting quickly. They regulate through doing, texting, explaining, fixing, apologizing, smoothing, making a plan, getting clarity. The nervous system feels better when something is happening. So the first practical step is learning to notice urgency as a symptom, not a signal. The urge to act is not necessarily wisdom, it's often activation. When you feel the urgency to fix the atmosphere, slow down. Not as a performance, as a discipline. Put 10 minutes between the trigger and the behaviour, then 20, then an hour. The aim is not to suppress your needs. The aim is to stop using the other person as your immediate calming mechanism. The second step is learning clean requests instead of control strategies. Many codependents don't actually ask. They hint, they perform, they overgive, they test, they push for reassurance in disguised ways. A clean request sounds like, I'd like some reassurance. Are you available for that tonight? And then crucially accepting a not right now without punishment. Because if not right now triggers retaliation, it wasn't a request, it was control. The third step is allowing the other person to have their own emotional life. This is the part that sounds simple, but it's often the real work. Your partner can be quiet without it being about you. They can be irritated without it meaning abandonment. They can need time without it being rejection. They can disagree without the relationship being in danger. This isn't a slogan. That is retraining your threat system through repeated adult experiences of nothing catastrophic happened. And if you're the person living with a codependent, the practical question becomes, do you have room to exist as a separate person? Are you allowed to have moods, needs, time, friendships, independence, opinions, and boundaries without emotional consequences? If the answer is consistently no, you're not in intimacy, you're in management. For codependents listening, I want to end with something direct, but also fair. The problem is not that you care. The problem is that you confuse caring with stabilizing. You confuse love with preventing discomfort. You confuse closeness with certainty. Love involves risk. It involves allowing the other person to be separate. It involves moments of uncertainty without forcing resolution. It involves letting someone be disappointed with you and staying steady anyway. It involves speaking plainly rather than controlling the atmosphere. So the change is not becoming colder, it's becoming freer. It's learning that you can survive the sensations your body treats as threat. You can survive not knowing. You can survive someone being quiet. You can survive a delayed reply. You can survive a partner having a life outside of you. You can survive a difficult conversation that doesn't immediately resolve. And when you can tolerate those things, the need to control drops. Not because you've been told off, but because your nervous system no longer needs control as a substitute for safety. If this sounded something that you resonate with, that's often a good sign. It means you're looking at function, not identity. Codependency isn't who you are. It's what your nervous system learned to do. And it can be unlearned. So thank you for listening, and until the next time.